Is everyone hearing that, or is it just me?
No, I'm there. What are you talking about?
Well, nobody was reacting at all. I was just like, wired in.
That'd be amazing. This was the moment you lost your mind. Yeah, it was like, yeah.
Well, many steps along that path.
Yeah.
Here we are. It is day 3 of the Doc Intensive. We have welcomed you into this space. I don't know how many of these people you have met, but there are 4 projects going through the lab.
Okay.
They're all emerging filmmakers with full lives behind their filmmaking careers and I think really full lives ahead of them. And so anything you share today with this room is going to be really valuable to them. But I think it's also going to be really valuable to me because you were doing something that I am excited by and jealous of and jazzed up when I get into it, which is my favorite feeling.
Yeah.
I hope you'll have a chance to hang out a little bit and meet the fellows.
Yeah.
And I hope that they will come and talk to you after this, but also after they see your film tomorrow.
Please.
So I said without further ado, but that was a lot more ado. And here we are in the episode of DocWalks in the AFS Doc Intensive for the last time on DocWalks. Please welcome our special guest, Barlow Jacobs.
On your left.
You're listening to DocWalks with Ben and Keith. I know you as an actor primarily, and I mentioned this to you right before we rolled that we met maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. It is a blurry memory. It is a festival memory of blurriness and friends. And I mostly just remember because you have a very memorable name.
Right.
Sophia Lynn, Toby Halbrooks, Jeff Nichols. There's a lot of like overlapping friends, and I just feel like I've heard Barlow.
Yeah.
You burst on the scene with Lo and Behold at Sundance. That was 2007. And here we are almost 20 years later.
I know, it's wild.
During that 20 years, you have been a writer, you've been a director. Like I said, I know you as an actor.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at Doc Days, you're premiering
The Voyage Out.
And not only now are you a documentary director on the festival circuit, but you're a documentary director taking a doc out that is shot so incredibly beautifully on 16 millimeter that I could spend the entire hour just talking to you about every grain that I saw on the screen and every frame that is like an oil painting in this picture.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk just about that, but I just want to start with that because I'm a sucker. The Voyage Out.
Yes.
How did you decide to make this film? What is the grain that got you kind of first interested in what would become this film? And what were the first steps you took?
Yeah, the impetus for this started in 2009. I had a brain tumor, and it was like a doctor described as like a 9 out of 10, get your affairs in order type of thing. It was benign, but it was, I won't go too deep into it, but the where it was situated, it was a very complicated surgery, and they weren't sure if I was going to kind of come out of it. And I did. You would have thought that would have kind of been wake up, man, life is short. I was young, very young to be having that. And I kind of didn't. I blew past it. I didn't think about it. I kind of just pretended like it didn't happen. And then 5 years, and I kind of just made a lot of bad life choices like after that led to a lot of interesting things in my life. But like 5 years later, when I was kind of coming at the other end of that, I was in a head-on collision with a dump truck.
Jeez. And
also walked away from that, like walked out of the hospital like that night. That was the one that was like, wow. Like, I think it was something about it that it happened where it was so immediate that it was like, I'm here and I'm not. And it kind of woke me up to this kind of PTSD I'd had from the brain surgery. And then I just kind of got fascinated about like, why was that? What's the disconnect there? Like, I was so disconnected from my mortality. And I just kind of got obsessed with that question of like, what is my relationship with death and how's that impacting my life? And like most of, like all of my career has been in the narrative space. And so was always trying to find anything I'm working on is usually around some question that I'm trying to figure out for myself. It's kind of the core of anything I'm working on. And I couldn't find the right device to bring that out. And so then I shifted. I was like, oh, maybe like documentary is like a interesting space to put it in, and was exploring like death doulas and stuff, and everything just felt like very too on the nose. And I'm like, I mean, I would go see a movie about death doulas, but I was like, I didn't know like broader was it just that subject matter. It just felt like it was like you were going to be alienating a lot of people from. I was like, that's not right. And then in 2018, I met one of the subjects of the film, Mansal Denton, and he had like a fascinating life, but he was starting a journey. He was going on he wanted to start hunting. Something about that kind of clicked in, like that idea of like, oh, a hunt, like, is this great way into these questions I was asking. Because I think when you ask the question, what is my relationship with death? How's that impacting my life? It's a foundational question for our existence. And it leads to a cascade of other questions that I think are really compelling. So I think if you face that and face those questions that kind of come out of it, it's a really powerful tool to transform your life. And I thought that would be an interesting subject. Like, let's see where this goes. And then met Marc Warnke, who's the hunting guide. And I'm like, whoa, wow. Like, and I kind of describe Marc as, Bruce Willis meets John Wayne with a philosophy degree, who's been in recovery for 20 years. So he's like very emotionally open. And I was like, wow, like this is not at all what I expected from this. And then I was saying, Mark's like, well, I got my goat girl who comes out, because Marc hunts with pack goats. He's like one of the few people who do this, and maybe anywhere, but definitely in North America, where he can go deeper into the mountains because he's got this team of pack goats that are like his family that like he loads up. And so normally you have to be like a half day walk to your truck because if you kill anything, then you have to be able to pack that meat out. But Marc can kind of just go out for long stretches with his team. And if you kill anything, you can always hike it out in one go with the goats. But when he's guiding hunts, he needs somebody to watch his goats. And so Callie Russell, who's the third member, who Marc got his goats from, because Callie's like lived off the grid for 10 years, just the ultimate badass. She's just so amazing. So she was there and I met her and I was like, oh, this is game on.
Yeah.
All of them had their own relationship with death. And there I was like, this is going to be the thing to do this.
This is a film you've done a great job of setting up. It's a multi-day elk hunt.
Yeah.
And by day, we're tracking and moving slowly, deliberately, quietly. And Marc, the guide, is really kind of teaching the process.
Yeah.
And the goats were such a surprise. A minute, the goats introduction sequence is, again, one of the things that like just washed over me in a visual aesthetic way. It just said, oh, I've never seen a movie with the shot sequence like this. I don't know what this is. And I'm like, whatever this is, I am all in. And then the goats continue to be, just like great characters.
Yeah.
But then by night, when they sit around the fire and they really get to share their stories and get to know each other and we get to know them. And that's when, the revelation of this is a film about death. It's about survivor's guilt. It's about shame. Mm-hmm. And it's about finding, I often say, like, I make a lot of documentaries that deal in death in one way or another, and they're often almost always about overcoming. But there's something about this film, overcoming is in there, but it's also about, like, finding the beauty and the balance with it, and not kind of almost hearing your story that you started out with a brain tumor that you kind of just sidestepped as best you could. Like,
yeah,
there's no sidestepping in this film.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. And so
that's right.
Thematically, that's the territory you're exploring. Logistically,
yeah.
You said you had 6 months to scout. Did you go and visit this trail? Did you go out and do the trek?
We prepped. We did one tech scout because this was a new area he was leading hunts in, and so he wanted to scout it. So 2 months before, Sean Webley, my cinematographer, and I went out because I knew we were shooting on film at that point. I knew we were going to be fully off the grid, and outside of all the challenges you have just in general with making a film, like we have all these additional technical challenges. And so I knew I really need to figure out, like, how are we going to deal with all of these different variables that could happen on the shoot. And so we went out with them for like 4 days and got like a feel landscape. We were shooting some tests while we were out there too, but also gave me a chance to really spend time with Marc and Callie and get to know them a little bit better. And it was great. Like it was just, that was super helpful to kind of, and also you're, you know, really trying to as quickly and efficiently build trust with your subjects, and so that you can, you know, access them and get to know them. And it was helpful for me because I knew we were kind of taking a more verite approach. It was me kind of more starting conversations and letting them go. And so being able to have an idea of who they are, what they were, their life experience, that was great. But then there was stuff that came out around the fire that like I had zero clue. Like sure. I was like,
I mean, it feels organic as hell.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, I like there. And then at that point, you're just staying on your toes. But most nights it was just, there are three people who have thought a lot about what they do and who they are to varying extents from where they were in their life at that time, but just had a lot to share and were very open and vulnerable. And I'm always like, say this, and I'll definitely say it tomorrow during the Q&A, how indebted I am to them of like the places they went and how vulnerable they were about their lives and their experience. And
well, let's talk about some of the technical challenges, because like I said, I was bowled over from the first frame.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of documentaries shot on film anymore. Mm-mm. And when you do, I mean, you don't really, but if the few times I have, you question the decision-making, the cost, the effort. When you look at a film like this, I don't like being wrapped up in the seams, but I couldn't help but just be enthralled visually over and over again. And then the problem solver mind, the producer mind kind of kicks in, and I'm wondering, how big a crew is this? I ran right to the credits. I didn't fit, like, you know, can you walk us through briefly? I won't dwell on it, but I'm so curious, like how you undertake this is a linear journey, right? There's no base camp, and you're shooting on film, and are you using the goats? Are the goats a part of your?
The goats helped us get everything in. If Old Fast Glass knew the way we were packing some of their lenses, like they'd have a heart attack. That might be something I strike later, but like, because the Pelican cases can't fit in their things, and so we were kind of reducing, trying to rig it, and got down to basically like Igloo coolers that we were like taking foam and putting that in and wrapping lenses and towels and gear and stuff and trying to make it all work, because Marc is, you know, rightfully so, is so precious about the amount of weight his goats can take and needing to get it all balanced and right. And so it was definitely a hilarious puzzle that we were trying to solve, and not what I was anticipating. So you get that. So but when they're hunting, like we found a base camp like there that we're always coming back to the same place at night. But then you're doing anywhere from 6 to 9 miles a day at like 9 to 11 feet elevation with like, our crew consisted of Sean, the DP, we had an AC and a sound guy, and then myself. But we kept on peeling back how many people would go, because you want, really, ideally, you don't want any film crew, right, like they're trailing. It's a 2% success rate to get an elk without a film crew following you. And so we're always trying to kind of play that game, but you know, you're carrying like all those the film mags and all of that, but we kind of, per the scout and per what we knew, we kind of had a good idea. A lot of that 6 months was like, how are we covering this? Like I knew I wanted it to feel elevated, so it was just a lot of things we're doing, because we were like I knew I wanted to use like kind of formalistic language, and the thing about a hunt is it's very ritualistic. You're doing kind of the same thing every day. Like you get up at the same time, you do this. And so it was very easy to, like, even on the Tech Scout, to realize like, oh, this is a rhythm. And then you can just start planning like, oh, tomorrow we'll be here. And so like you could get shots, like static shots, like where you're setting up and doing like a long zoom on something. And the hike in was the same way. Like I was just starting to mark times and like okay, we'll probably be here at this time of day, this. And so when we were hiking in, we'd just go ahead and hike in, set up. So I knew like the only day I knew what was going to happen was the first day. Like I knew where we're starting, I knew where we're finishing. You'll see in the film, there's a lot of kind of these long tracking shots on a zoom. So I knew I wanted all that. And so that was a lot of like what Sean and I were talking about, knowing that there's going to be so many you just don't know what's going to happen. But there are certain things you know how it will be.
Yeah.
If this situation happens, we're going to do this. If this situation happens, we're going to do this. So you kind of had like, we had so many different plans for all the different potential scenarios.
And how are you talking to Marc and the other subjects around your goals? Because it is so composed.
Yeah.
Are you just moving around the fringes and being as brave and smart as you can, or are they cooperating in a way with your plan?
So the mornings was like, we were like, let it rip, like Marc's like, keep up. Your prime time is going to be in that morning window, and then you have an evening window. The evening window, it goes significantly down, like the probability. And so in the evening, like I could slow them down a little bit. Like it was a little bit more communication like this. If I saw something, I'd just drop back and let them go, and then we'd catch up. And so it was like a little bit of that, like, but it was the purpose of it. Like we were never impeding them from doing what they were doing, but like, it was just like this mornings were a scramble. And you kind of, over 9 days, you kind of work it out like, all right, this is what we need to be doing. But we knew about how much we would be filming. We were always prepared for all the different scenarios. We had everything we needed. And I had a great, as you know, like to find a sound guy who's willing to kind of go to those lengths was like wild. And we just, Wendell Earn was just like a champion. Because there was so much stuff we used from the audio, like in the middle of the day, you kind of break. And so I would just listen to the audio because I'm not up there with them always the time. So I don't know what they're talking about and what conversations, because sometimes you'll set up and you'll be there for an hour and a half.
Right.
We're separated from them. So I don't know what all they're talking about. But there's all these like really beautiful gems.
Yeah, that's a really unique setup. I've never been in a production setup like this.
Yeah. It was also the unique thing. I knew if we'd had $2 million, which we didn't, or anything, or 200 million, this is the only way. You'd still have to use this setup.
Right. But in this instance, like the thing that they are there to do, you are the exact antithesis to the likelihood of them doing it. Like you stepping on a twig.
Yeah.
Somebody tripping and falling, the camera making a noise, like.
Yeah.
And so, as it's always a delicate balance. I think you had a uniquely delicate balance in this. And you said if you had $2 million, it wouldn't be different in that regard. Other things would be different, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It feels like million, feels like $1 million when you watch it.
That's what we wanted. I wanted it to have that feeling like where that's not why it wasn't the impetus of shooting on film necessarily, but that was the thing. I wanted to feel like, oh, this is something that a bigger production couldn't do. Like we're going to a place, you'd never be able to get this gear, this deep in the mountains to do it this way. Like just no production would really let you do it. And so we were just kind of, shooting on film, you're rolling the dice of like, oh, I hope we got it all. And
you're just packing around these exposed cans.
Yeah.
Where you're going.
And so we would
There's no way to drop it mid-hike?
No. We played around with that, but it was just like, I like the logistics weren't realistic and per the budget and per the dance we were trying to do. And so the temperature was dropping. It was like it'd get down to about 12 degrees at night, but it would be up to sometimes 75 or 80 during the day. And so you're always playing that game with the film canisters not wanting to get too hot or cold. So we were in a teepee structure that you could have a fire in. So at night we kind of have the film canisters just close enough to kind of keep them warm. And then in the afternoons we had a pop-up tent that we put it by the stream so it naturally cool. And it rained one day. I remember we had a Polish AC who was the best. He's also a great cinematographer in his own right. But which I'll pivot there. That was even intentional. We found him, we were renting his camera, and I was thinking well, if Sean goes down with an angle, it's I'd like to know I have somebody else who knows this camera. And he was just up for an adventure. And so he was like, yeah, I'll go. This sounds cool. And I'm sure he regretted it after we were there. He's a great cinematographer. So I was like, oh, that's the next stop. And obviously I can shoot too, but not as nearly as accomplished as those two. And so even thinking about that kind of stuff was how do you, we really thought through all, what are the different scenarios that could kind of come up that could screw us. But it rained one day and there was a tear in the tent, and we came in, it was just, there's a puddle of water in the corner where some of the, and I just saw Marcin like pulling out the film and just watching the water drip, and Sean, our DP, is very stoic, just looks at me and goes, "Oh, it's gonna have to take a bath at some point." It's like, might as well now.
Well, that's what, it's a chemical process, right? Like, I wonder if those fluctuating temperatures, like the smoke from the fire, the spirit of their hunt is like flashing the frames.
Well, Colorlab, so we sent all the cans to Colorlab, and they call us like 2 days later in a panic. We gotta get on the phone. And like, we open the canister, everything smells like smoke. Like, it all smells like, it's like, we don't know if it's campfire smoke or like this. And we're like, and then we kind of explain what happened. They're like, "Oh, wow. Okay, this is crazy." Like, in there. So yeah, it was very, very funny.
Yeah.
And we didn't lose any, didn't lose any roles, any shots. Yeah, it was all good.
That's incredible. That's what's going on in your crew on the hike. Let's talk about what's happening out behind the scenes, because not only does it look like $1 million, but you've got some $1 million executive producers behind this film.
Yeah.
At what stage in the process are you seeing some support? I mean, you have people who were behind The Lighthouse, people behind Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw Chris Columbus. Is that Chris Columbus, director of Home Alone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Harry Potter. Yeah. And Eleanor, his daughter, they formed. Chris just, who's the best. Like, he and Eleanor are really great and were incredibly supportive. He just loves independent cinema, and so he's like, as he told me, he's like, "I don't make this, but I want it to exist," which is great. Yeah. He's like, so their whole mission with Maiden Voyage is just like, we want to support filmmakers who are doing cool stuff that's outside the box.
Are you pitching them in the run up to this? Are they getting involved after they've seen a cut? Where are you finding that support?
Ley Line Entertainment, who was behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, Maiden Voyage, and then Sons of Rigor, who's also a really great company who do highly recommend reaching out to them. They do support a lot of docs and narrative, and also they're all wonderful. I had a great experience working with all of this. Our initial money, we'd gotten a little money, but then there was a professional gambler we had a relationship with, and had kind of pitched to him, and he was, cool. It's film sounds cool. I might then it's well, I've got a tournament this weekend. Let me see how I do. And we were supposed to have a meeting on Monday, and he didn't he didn't make it to the meeting, and or just the phone call. And then we got a text from him a couple hours later. "Hey, sorry I missed the call. It was a crazy week." And he's like, "I won $2 million. I can give you some money for the film." And we're like, "Great." And that chunk got us up and going, and enough to get through the shoot. And then I was like, "Great, we've got it." And then I got in, was playing with the footage and trying to see, cut some stuff together, because I knew we would need more to kind of finish the film the way I wanted to finish it. And then we hit COVID, and then I didn't want to go out to try and raise financing during that period. And so that kind of pushed things. It helped me wrap my head around what everything was. It was actually as challenging as that was to kind of wait, it was gave me more time with the footage, and to kind of really, what are we saying here? What are we doing? And really explore all the audio, really dig into everything we had. And then from there, kind of made a new pitch deck. I feel I really had a clear vision of this is what this is now. And that's what enabled us to kind of finish the film. There was a lot, we went back out, and I always knew, for the nature stuff, from the beginning, knew that was going to be part of the plan.
So it's kind of a second unit.
Yeah, that we'd come back, and just having that thing, to know what that, to frame. I knew nature would be its own character in the film, and we did a lot of double exposure stuff, and so I wanted to have time to do. And then I really dug in, I knew sound design was going to be a huge part, and so took another really sound designer who really specifies in kind of nature filming stuff, and has a lot of cool gear. So when we could just go out and went to all those same places, and would just post up for an hour and record sound, and we'd wander off and pick up stuff as we could. So
yeah, this process is it pays off. One, that's what matters most. But it's so layered and detailed.
Yeah.
And it, the fact that you come from scripted filmmaking and fiction and bring into nonfiction, we talk about a lot, the overlap between fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah.
And people who bring techniques of fiction filmmaking into nonfiction, techniques of nonfiction that have in the last few years, movies like The Big Short and others, where you see nonfiction technique and language and idioms kind of coming across in the fiction storytelling. But for you as a writer and a director and producer, it sounds like all of those experiences you had in fiction really informed the way you approach this.
Big time, yeah. Even to the subject matter of, it was a beginning, middle, and end. And like, he's either gonna get the elk or he's not gonna get the elk. And so it's like, and there's gonna be a reaction to that. So in my brain, it was just like, oh, that seemed like I think one of the biggest challenges with documentary filmmaking is like,
how does it end?
How does it end?
When
is it? Yeah, when does it end? When does it end? It's like, oh, it felt like that was like a cheat. And my brain was a cheat code. Definitely like, so many things happen and change that thing. But like, it's still in the print. It gave us like somewhat of a roadmap. I knew we were going to deviate from that, but at the very end, I always knew we had. It's like this, it's the same thing of like when you're outlining a script or something like that. You do an outline before you write it. And so just even knowing like, okay, within the realm of reality, that there's going to be a general structure here, and we can figure out the rest there. So it was like, I think that was big. And even getting back to like, I've always been obsessed with documentary. In a lot of ways, I think it's just such an exciting medium, and the potential for it. There's so much you can play within that story. And you look at even like all the filmmakers that are like my heroes in a narrative stuff, like from the 60s and 70s, started in docs because you had there were so many strict union regulations.
Right.
Like docs was the easiest thing you could kind of plug into to like direct, edit, do all that stuff. So all of those people like really cut their teeth on documentary, and you see it in all of their work, like that realism of the 70s cinema, I think was so informed by just all of those guys' doc backgrounds, like with Friedkin, Coppola, all the DPs they're working with.
Well, I was gonna say the long lens stuff that you're shooting is like has such like an Altman quality to it.
Yeah.
And even just being in the cinema the other night and watching the McCabe and Miss Miller, trailer played because they're showing McCabe and Miss Miller on the big screen this month. I hadn't seen the trailer on the big screen, I don't know, maybe ever. And I had your film in mind because there's so many plates that have a matching. It's the dust in the air, and then when the grain grabs the light off of that dust. All been started in industrials.
Yep.
It's not exactly docs, right? But more instructional videos. And there's also like strangely like in the best possible way an instructional quality to this film because of Marc.
Yeah.
He's at each step he's teaching. Right, so which makes him a great documentary subject because as he's teaching Mansal, he's teaching us.
Yeah, that was.
I need to know that. I've never been on a hunt. Did you grow up in this world?
I didn't. Like, my dad is a Vietnam vet. Like, no guns in the house. Like, it was like kind of very opposite. Like this. I grew up in the South, so I grew up around it, and like friends who did it, but it just wasn't like my experience there. I went to school in Mississippi and had many a morning I would come out of the house and there'd be a deer in the tree from a hunt that was like that earlier that morning. So I was definitely around it, but not that into it. It wasn't until right before doing this, I just was very into sustainability and like this. And so I was like, oh, like hunt, like something about like connecting with nature, and that this was interesting to me. But as we started prepping for this, I've got a lot of friends who do it, so I started going on hunts, and now hunt. Now I always say with the film, it's like, it's a film that's not a hunting film. It's a film that happens to take place on a hunt, is like making that distinguish. Like I'm not necessarily that's a part of the film, but not necessarily like it's more, I think the disconnect that we have from nature and exploring that, like why is that? Like why have we gotten so disconnected from this, and what is our relationship?
I'm not surprised. It sounds like you have like a complex set of ideas around it, and the film speaks for itself. And I think Marc, speaks for himself in a way that I think really opens up an audience who, like myself, has not chosen to go down that path and hasn't been exposed all that much to. But it's some of the things that we hope I hope to connect with in nature come across. And as a man, as a father and a son, always in a relationship to survival and life and death in this world. Since COVID, that's a theme that's loomed really large, I think, in a way that it didn't,
Well, that was the other thing about, I should have said that when we were there, is like COVID happening in the middle. I had all these theories about death and a relationship with death, and then watching those play out in real time and people's like the way their relationship with COVID and how they were dealing with it was really fascinating. And it's not that COVID is not a part of the film, but it did have a huge impact on the film from a philosophical standpoint and the questions that I was asking myself.
Gotcha. Well, so the film is playing tomorrow night at the cinema, and everyone here will have a chance to see it. I was so glad to have a chance to see it already. People in our audience at home, when will they get a chance to see it? What's the distribution landscape for The Voyage Out, and how have you found taking this film into the world to be so far?
We're releasing March of next year, and so like we're right at the beginning. We've been building our distribution strategy. I'm really excited by it. I think we're in this, I don't like to, perilous seems too dramatic, but like you're just watching, like you're watching everything constrict. And I mean, I'm preaching to choir, I'm sure everybody here, like, but there's fewer, I'd say that across the whole film landscape, but specifically with the indie landscape, there's just fewer distributors. Everything is kind of consolidating. And so I think I think where everything's going in 5 years is like you're going to be putting out your own film if you want to get out in the world. It's in a significant way. And I think there'll be a new economy that's going to, it's already starting in an exciting way that I think has the potential to be much more beneficial for the filmmaker.
Talk more about that.
Yeah.
In what ways?
So with what we're doing is and this is all, everything I'm saying right now is theoretical. We could talk next May, and it's like it could be a dumpster fire. But in theory, like I'm excited about it. We're going to do 50 to 75 theaters is the plan. So all of this, and we're in the. This is a preview of kind of what we're doing. Like we're still in the process of kind of putting us all this together. But like I'm looking at it kind of as what we're doing right now. In hindsight 2020, like a lesson learned, I wish we'd done before we'd even shot a frame, before I'd even gone to scout. Like, I wish I'd had that plan in place, knowing we had that momentum of go ahead and raise for a potential distribution strategy, because just to know that's there, if you get distribution, great, like that's awesome and you're happy with it. But even if you have a plan, it puts you in a better position to leverage whatever that deal is. Like I just had friends who sold something to IFC, but they were fully prepared and had the money to go do it themselves. And it impacted how they were able to negotiate, because IFC really wanted that film. And so they were able to get like a more favorable deal.
It probably mattered to IFC that they knew that they were getting an activated partner that is going to be there with them.
100%, yeah.
I think so many filmmakers, myself, I've been in these shoes myself. You work so hard just to get a film done, and you want to exhale and go to the premiere and have a beer afterwards and do a Q&A.
Yeah.
But the real work has barely begun. And for many films, the massive amount of work that has to be done just to get the eyeballs that you started out as, hoping to get. So you wish you made those decisions when you started. What are the decisions you would have made, and what do you think like an emerging filmmaker making a first or second film could take from this idea?
It's like, I think it's all about like where's your audience, who's your audience, like how do we get in touch with your audience? And like with this, it's like, and I thought this in the back of my head, like there's 15 million registered hunters in the United States. And I've always said that with my film, I think like 5% of hunters will be very into it. Like it's not like, oh, everybody's gonna love it. Like, but 5% of 15 million is a significant amount. Like if you just captured that audience, you're making money on it. And so, and then there's a lot of I knew from that there's organizations, all these different things that have places all over the country. And so it's like, I would have been reaching out to them from the beginning, because it's like, and taking them on this journey with you. So you're built, like the reason, like technically we could probably release in the fall, but like I don't think I could successfully release in the fall. So the reason we're stretching that out to 9 months is I want to have that much time to reach out to all the individual cities where releasing those audience. Like my cousin has a butcher shop where they do all organic, high-end stuff in Indianapolis. Indianapolis has a great like indie theater, and so I'm using her like to like she's got and they've seen the film, she loves it. So she's like, my clientele would be your audience for this. So we're leveraging her and that, and they're part of a network of these
butcher shops
all over the place.
Right.
So it's like they're going to connect me to this, and so now we're building a distribution strategy of like where would he have the most thing, and then where do like my father has 15 brothers and sisters, and they're all in Cincinnati, Ohio, and so it's like, well, we're going to get like leverage Cincinnati, Ohio, like, and not even just from them, but like I know I can use them to help spread it. And so it's like, I think the more you can kind of like build your audience where they're waiting for it in your mailing list. And I'm working with a really brilliant marketing kind of guru who's like, we're just like where we're reaching out to build our mailing list over this next year. And then Marc and Callie have really large following. Like Callie, after our film, went on to be on this show called Alone that is like a survival show that's like very respected in the survivalist community, and she was a runner-up fan favorite. So her audience just like exploded after that. And then Marc has a large following, so using them. And so we're playing with different ideas of even like working with Kinema to do like a just for their personal audiences before we do the theatrical. But it's like, I think like all of this stuff is stuff we could have been doing way before. Like I knew all of that stuff that was in my head. But in my mind at that point, I was thinking like, oh, this is the way I can pitch to distributors. Well, now it's like, I wish I'd just had that, because like we could do it ourselves. And it's like, and like you said, if you do have a distributor, if you're even presenting all this information up front to a distributor when they're watching it, then it becomes like a different conversation. Because, and it's the same thing you'll have with any theater, like, or theater booker, if you're looking to bring them on, is like, well, what they're going to want to know, like, how can I trust that an audience is going to show up for there? So if you can have all of that data for you, like, hey, we've got a mailing list of 20,000 people in your city who like we're engaging with, they're going to be like, what theater is not going to be like, yeah, let's go, let's do a week, you know? Like, so I think if you have a desire to do a theatrical, which I did, I mean, we made it to be played on a large screen. Like, there's nothing that restricted us from doing that pre. Right. And so like, and then doing that along the whole, you know, like all that time we were waiting over COVID and getting the rest of the financing, like there was no restriction of us doing that kind of thing. And like, as everybody here knows who's done a film, by the time you're at this point, you're exhausted. Like the last thing you want to do is like mess with, oh, now we're going to start over and do this whole new thing that's like there. But it's like, and it's the last, in many ways it's the last thing. I've just gotten to the point where I've re-inspired myself, and it's mainly just because now I'm like genuinely curious, can this be a sustainable, successful model? That's something that's bridging that gap. If you can capture the audience, if you know where the people are in those cities, you can have something that's a little bit closer to a traditional distribution, but you can spread it out. Like we're going to try and spread it out for like 2 months, you know, if possible, to kind of get that and build that momentum. But most independent distribution, you've got like people are taking the show on the road, and you're on the road for like a year. That's great for one film, but that's not a sustainable model for anybody to live their life, to be able to take that and devote that time. So if like, is there a way to build this that feels sustainable, that feels like that money is going to the filmmakers? And yeah, that's the challenge.
Well, and even like, it sounds like all the work you're doing through the butcher shops, through engaging with these direct audience members that haven't been and aren't being marketed at by typical film distributors, right? They wouldn't know how to find those folks. Those folks aren't necessarily out looking for indie cinema. But now you've captured them. Is there a way to hold on to them for the next film?
That's the hope, and that's the engagement and building. So we're also working on building a platform engagement for this. And like I've got a couple of projects in development, but like 2 of those overlap with that same audience. So it's like you can use that, like we can go straight back, hey, if you like this, Here's something else you can do. And I think if you've got the proper engagement, like hopefully you're winning them over as like, if they had a good experience with that film, like, why would I not want to go to this? And I think that's the cool thing with this strategy is you can, like most distribution companies don't have the money to tailor their strategy specific to the film. They kind of have, they know their people are going to
cutter ideas and then slot you in
and this, and you know, some they'll be a little bit more bespoke, but like with yours, like you know what's unique about it. You know who your audience is, or you should know who your audience is before you're going into it.
I mean, what's amazing to me is we had a panel in this room 24 hours ago where every idea that you said you're doing is a version of something that was said on this panel.
Yeah, like but by no means was I trying to claim like I've like
no, not at all. And my guess is what I was gonna say is knowing that you've been going to film festivals for 20 plus years, like every one of these lessons, I feel like these are the things people were saying to me in 2004, 2005 when I was getting started in one way or another.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times do you have to hear it before you can apply it to your own work? Or do you realize like this is the project that those disparate but powerful ideas can all come together? And it sounds like you're marshaling an incredible set of forces to create the film, all the decisions you made, all the you know, starting with your brain tumor and your head-on collision.
Yeah.
To know I want to explore death and to be really thoughtful about that process to end up with something that is beautiful, that does exactly what you set out to do as far as start a conversation and explore it from multiple facets and give, I think, audiences a lot to chew on.
Yeah.
And then to also reconceive the way that you relate to audiences. It just feels like a lot. It feels like this is kind of like almost like a paradigm shift for you in your career.
Big time, yeah.
You mentioned that you had a ton of respect for documentaries. I want to ask, we're at the end of our time together, but I always ask at the end of these conversations, like, what is the gateway drug documentary? What is the nonfiction work that kind of lit a spark for you, or that you go back to as a foundational?
Going back, well, I'm mainlining like Adam Curtis right now, like with everything that's going on in our country right now. I think like it's, I mean, kind of been, I'm in awe of kind of like his tapestry, but I was not early on Adam Curtis. Like, you know, it's, I mean, anything the males with, like Grey Gardens was like.
Where do you recommend people start with Curtis?
Hypernormalization.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's no start. I love that one. Yeah, that one is like, or Can't Get You Out of My Mind. Maybe that one, like, it's like there. I just watched Trauma Zone. Like, I hadn't seen that one. Have you seen it? If you've seen it, oh my gosh. Oof. Yeah, it's like a horror film, but it's phenomenal.
You
but
mentioned Grey Garden.
Like that and Give Me Shelter early on was that, and then I think Frederick Wiseman was like a revelation to me. And that was Ronnie Bronstein was like, that was like having lunch with him in New York. And he was shocked. I'd never heard of him. I mean, this was, 15 years ago, but like, and I was just like, oh shit. Like when I just Titicut Follies, Police, like just all of like
the early stuff.
Yeah, early stuff. It was just like, I was, oh my gosh, like how have I never done this? But
I mean, he's incredible. The late stuff is also incredible.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like library, like, I mean, he just never stopped. I mean, it's just like in awe, like of him. And then Vernon, Florida is obviously, it's funny, even Bucks Harbor was, Holly and I were talking last night. And I was like, I was like, you just can't do a Vernon, Florida, like no. And then I watched Bucks Harbor and I was like, oh, this is like, it had the Vernon, Florida vibes to it. Like the way that it was funny and poignant and like all the things. And so, yeah, those are a few. I mean, I could.
No, that's a lot of gateways to walk through.
Yeah.
Let me, last question. What is your advice? What is your advice to emerging filmmakers? I'll be honest with you, we ask this of every guest on DocWalks when we're walking the hike and bike trail or we're walking Main Street at Sundance or down the street from here during South by. But it's, I think, also particularly poignant for, you're in a room of emerging filmmakers who've been getting their ears filled and they're making great work on their own without our advice. So it's not that they need it, but you've got something to share. What is your advice?
Keep going. I think it's like whenever you're making film, no matter what it is, you're always going to hit this road. Like I remember we thought we were going to like get all our gear from one company and we were going to do our tests this, and that was going to be a significant little investment to test that, and the insurance fell apart, and then they're like, you can't have insurance, there's no insurance for you. And so we had to do, and it was like right in the thing, it was like, dude, this is our window to do this. And so we had to source everything we'd done off share grid. And I was saying, but before, and we were even trying to figure that out, and I just remember it was like, we're supposed to leave and this, and there's just, it's one symbolism where you're just like, it feels like the world's falling apart and this is never going to work out. And I could like list so many different moments. And I remember kind of my mantra was just like, walk to the next block. Like, and I think it's just like, before you're just like give up, just like walk to the next block and like kind of take the next step. And it seems so simple and there, but it's just, I think the moment you can walk to this block and see what happens, and surrender, and also just kind of perpetually surrendering to what is. It's just like, it's very easy to get a fixed mind of like, oh, I know what this is. Like I get this. And as everybody who's ever made anything knows, like the film is going to humble you. Like it's going to come in, it's going to say like this, and to listen to that, like to open up ears. And like, I truly, and this isn't something many filmmakers said, but I do think the film tells you what it wants to be as you're making it at every level, and to be open to that and kind of to let go of your ego and kind of let it guide you and be present and be aware as you're doing it. And then, but it is just keep going and find a subject and find a question that you're exploring that you're like willing to die for. And I know that sounds like over dramatic, but like it's so hard to do this, and it's like, and it's especially now, it's not getting like easier to do, and there's so many different things with the fundraising and pulling the crew and making it work, and whatever your subject matter might be, there's going to be so many times you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And it's like, you have to have that why that is something that you're worth like giving everything for. And as I always say, it's like we're dying every day. So whatever you're spending the majority of your time doing, that is what you're dying for. Like whatever project you're picking, pick one that like is worth it.
Yeah. For a DocWalks episode where we sat on our butts the entire time, I think Walk to the Next Block is a perfect title.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that. Yeah, I hear at the end. So a round of applause for Barlow Jacobs. Thank you.
Awesome, man.
It was great.
Next time on DocWalks, Keith has the week off as I walk solo with Luke Coram, director of Dealt, that's about Richard Turner, a blind magician. Luke has also directed documentaries about sports gambling, about Milli Vanilli, and he's got a really interesting new project that we get into on our walk. So I hope you stick around and listen to next week's episode with Luke Coram next time on DocWalks.
DocWalks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at DocWalks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.